What's up, guys? You need to matter here with Cat again, who absolutely ran shop with the Perfect Circle tournament we did recently, going 6-0, and absolutely dumbing everybody with Demise OTK. So we had to kind of go ahead and get the list.
Definitely sent everyone there to their demise. And pretty quickly, too. This deck is the definition of gas or die.
And no deaths here.
Yeah, and I got lucky and didn't die. Had a lot of fun with the list. This is actually adapted from somebody's list. I forget their username. I apologize. But if you go to, there is a Perfect Circle Discord. If you go to the Demise OTK channel, there's a guy who posted a list very similar to mine there. I drew inspiration from that. But just to get into it, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of speed in the deck in a way that not many other decks in the format can replicate or keep up with, especially without cards like Trag or Gores or Battle Fader to kind of slow you down. And Demise is unrivaled in that it's a JD before JD existed. It's the only card that really does what it does, and has a lot of cool synergies given its level and its attack. But
Levia Dragon Daedalus or whatever.
That's true. It did have a nuking effect. It shouldn't be the first one. But this is a Demise deck. You are going to play 3. Even if you brick it, there are things you can do with a card in your hand. But definitely run 3 of it. It's what your deck revolves around. To get to it, you have a bunch of searchers. You have 3 Manju to get your spells or your monsters. You have 2 Senju just to get the monsters. You have 2 Sonic Birds to just get the spells. And you have a Sangan to get any one of those cards. Just given how much the deck is focused purely on seeing Demise, you do need to run that many searchers. You will brick on them occasionally. But most of the time, searching and thinning your deck, you're going to find your pieces within the first few turns of the game. So that is the searchers. Now, the fun part of this for me is that
the Rescue Rabbit cards.
The garnets of the deck are insects.
These are the first garnets ever.
They have to be, or at least close, right?
Yeah.
So you play 3 Insect Knights as a level 4 vanilla.
No Neobug.
No Neobug. The fact that it's a 1900 beater actually means that hard drawing it isn't the worst thing in the world against a lot of like the starting monsters from other decks. You also play 3 Metal Armored Bug because it's a level 8.
That's 2800.
That's 2800, which does matter. And I'll get into the math of some of the OTK combos later. If you haven't watched it yet, we definitely recommend you check out Joe Giorlando's profile for this deck, but from the format before. A lot of what he says carries over into this format. It's a little different, but he gives a great rundown.
We don't have Metamorphosis anymore, but your opponent also doesn't have 3 Dustshoots to ruin your day.
Yeah, Dustshoot Mind Crush is the bane of this deck's existence. But to combo with the insects, you're playing 3 Doom Dozers as both an extender and as a level 8 and as a 2800 body. Just a lot of neat things that line up with the deck. Now to move on to the spells, that was 20 monsters.
So it's 28, 28, 24 is what you're shooting for.
Yeah, eventually. So here, and now the 3 ritual spells. You're only playing 3. You're just playing 3 advanced ritual art. You're not playing Contract with the Abyss or End of the World. You don't need it. You have 3 ARA, play 3 ARA. The ARA sends either the Metal Armored Bug or 2 of the Insect Knights. You can send 2 Insect Knights with ARA just to immediately make Doom Dozer live, which is one of the main plays of the deck. As well as if you have, I'll get into the next spell here, but the ARA in and of itself sets up a lot just because it's a targeted foolish. But to benefit from it, you also have 2 Swing of Memoriex.
So this is new to this format. Glass is I believe the last legal set.
It just brings back a vanilla monster for the turn. You can be in whatever attack position you want.
There is no next turn, brother.
Yeah, but it dies at the end of the turn. You're trying not to make that matter. Ideally, you're just ARAing for a Metal Armored Bug and then bringing it back with Swing. And ultimately, you're just trying to stick a Demise plus a 2800 beater and hit with Megamorph or have 2 2800 beaters on the board.
And because you pay 2K for Demise, and a lot of times your searchers are getting run over, your Megamorph is typically live, so you would equip it to one of your 28s, whether it be Doom Dozer or Metal Armor Bug, 56, 24 with Demise, and that's game.
That's exact 8K, and that's what the game goes for. So you're not playing upstarts or anything to try to hurry this along.
Instead,
to boost your consistency, you're playing 3 trade-ins. Between 3 Demise, 3 Metal Armored Bug, and 3 Doom Dozer. This is almost always live, especially since you can Senju for the Demise if you really just need to draw some cards. It just really helps speed the deck along. Almost never dead to see. Additionally, to help speed the deck along, we have 1 Premature Burial. Basically, another copy of Swing of Memoriex. If you just ARA a Metal Armored Bug, you don't have Doom Dozer, you don't have Swing, just pre-me back the Metal Armored Bug, and that's still 52 points of damage. To help make sure that your plays resolve, you have Trunade Heavy and MST. Yes, Demise does clear all the back row that matters. However, triple Judgment's in the format, so they can still Judgment your ARA, prevent you from doing anything. So
Bribe is in the format.
Bribe is in the format. Sometimes you just don't want to see your Demise bottomless or wing blasted or TT'd, so clearing back row does still matter for this deck, even though half the time it doesn't. You want to make sure your plays can go through, and if people really wanted to, you could, like, Oppression. But that's not a very popular card in the format for good reason, mostly.
Because it hasn't been changed yet, yeah. It's still the GOAT ruling.
Continuing on that trend, you do play 2 Dust Tornado. You really do just want to pick cards off, especially when people get to the sideboard. Pulling the rug is pretty good against all of your recruiter monsters, as well as just hitting judgments or anything else. You have Call to help hit, or not to help, but just as an extender. Again, send big 2800 monster, bring it back. To interrupt your opponent and thus give yourself more time to see your combo, you have Dustshoot to help close out games after you've done most of the damage but couldn't quite get to the finish line. Magic Cylinder helps close it out. I personally didn't see or use Magic Cylinder a lot and often ended up siding it out. But in theory, I mean, get your opponent down to 1,500 life points just with, chip damage and then your 5,200 combo and cylinder them for game.
We would like to try, instead of Magic Cylinder, Magical Mouth. Put back the vanillas and keep drawing. So that's kind of our... That's the other thing in theory that's being tested. Those are staples.
Yeah, they're just staples. Despite the fact that you don't care about the board typically, you don't want to die right away. You can get out aggroed in this deck. So these are here to help make sure that doesn't happen. That is the whole main board. It is 20 monsters, 13 spells, and 7 traps. All with the main purpose of trying to get you to do 8K in a turn, or at least just plop down a Demise, clear your opponent's board, and then put them on the back foot for the rest of the game if it sticks. Getting to the sideboard, Burn is not a huge presence in the meta at the moment. Okay, quote-unquote meta. It's not a super active format. But Burn does really screw this deck up.
CO Burn and the Baboon Burn.
Yeah, they can, just because you're paying 2K willingly all the time. If they're dedicated burn strategies, they will happily take advantage of that, and you need something to staunch the bleeding. And then we have a whole bevy of attack stopping cards. 1 Swords, 2 Messenger, and 1 Gravity Bind. Originally, the Swords was supposed to be a 3rd Messenger, but I actually thought about it. And the Messengers are good for decks that are really trying to aggro you with high-level monsters or high-attack monsters, whereas Swords and Gravity Bind are good against things like gadgets that'll just chip you with a bunch of little weenies. So it has its place, again, all with the intent of stalling until you can get to your Demise, and then you don't care about these existing on the field anymore.
Yeah, the idea is game 2 and 3, typically with more targeted sideboarding. Your ARA, first one may not resolve, and you may have to chill out until the second one gets there because it might get bribed or judgmented or something like that.
Yep. That's it. And then as general disruption, you're running Mind Crush. God forbid you run into the mirror, but if you do, this card is great against the mirror. They activate ARA, you just Mind Crush Demise, and
then they summon Zork.
If they run to Zork in this format, they earn it, all right? But you're also playing Triple Rug, which, yes, is really good in the mirror, but is also good against like half the decks in the format. It's great against PC for the most part.
It's really important. Okay, so do you want to explain the pulling the rug interruption?
Yeah, I do. So Lad is on this mat. And I thought it was really fitting for this reason because Lad really screws this deck up. Like you don't have enough cards to burn through a Lad before you're just out of the game. So originally I had 2 Lava Golems in my side deck to help counteract just the Lad existing. However, I realized Pulling the Rug's language is just you can activate this to negate a monster effect that activates when a monster is normal summoned. So you can normal a Recruiter, activate its effect on summon, and then if there's Lad on the field, it will activate as Chain Link 2. In response to the normal summon of a monster, you can rug the Light and Darkness Dragon. So rather than putting 2 Lava Golems, which were questionably valid inclusions, given that they're level 8s and they do burn, but Pulling the Rug is way more valid against a lot of the other decks in the format. It doesn't really hurt to max it out. And is typically more viable than Lava Golem.
Because you're going to hit Stratos, Rises, and the Lads as well.
Not to mention like gadgets or whatever if you want to. So it's a very solid card, but remembering the Lad interaction is very important for this deck because you just hard lose to it. That is that for if you're worried about not having enough back row disruption, if you're really worried about triple judgment, really worried about wing blasts or rugs, you have even more back row hate in your side.
Wing blast does not this deck does not like that card. It's pretty much everywhere.
If you only have 1 ARA and Demise and you get the ARA out, you activate its effect, they chain wing blast, they make you top deck the Demise. That's typically pretty bad for you unless you have a trade in or another searcher like another Sonic Bird or another Manju in hand. Otherwise, top decking a ritual after you've already resolved one is typically pretty bricky.
And paid 2K.
Yeah, and paid 2K. So that's that.
So that means because that blows the whole board, so you typically have no other monsters on the board afterwards or else, yeah.
You might be able to drop a Doom Dozer or something, but you're not going to want a Swing of Memories unless it's game, so you might just be sitting open for a while. Last 2 cards. These were originally the Lava Golems, and the more I thought about it, if this mirror ever comes up, or if there were burn decks that were very aggressive, really just in decks like DDT, this is great against DDT. T-Word just buys you a turn, and typically you can play it so that your opponent commits resources to the board, and then they go for the push to kill you. You just T-Word, and then you demise them next turn. And
chainable to Ryza, chainable to like Stratos popping, things like that.
Yeah, you don't want to side like Decree or something against Ryza decks. Not that you necessarily put T-Word in against them, but it's worth considering. That was the 15 card side deck there. No extra deck because Metamorphosis isn't on the format yet. None of the fusions matter. But yeah, this is just a really fun variant of Demise. The fact that insects actually get a chance to shine here really it stands out to me personally. But there's just a lot of fun synergies. This deck goes really fast.
There's plenty of duels on the channel. If you guys want to check it out, we'll put some in the description as well. You can kind of see the deck just absolutely bulldoze everything. And thanks for watching, guys.